Yeah, I just need to make a correction to the video before you watch it. In the video, I talk about the base part number for a second gen Camaro, the lower ball joint part number. The base part number, I'm mistaken. I keep saying K2145, I think it is, through the video. It's actually K6145, so K as in kilo 6145. That is the base part number if you want to go buy a stock replacement lower ball joint for a second gen Camaro. So when you get to that part of the video and I'm saying 2145, I was mistaken, so I'm making that correction now. And enjoy the video. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the John McKinney Racing channel. Got a couple of things to show you. I'm really excited. I figured out the lower ball joint. I got the front end travel that I'm looking for, and I'm going to show you the different ball joints that I went through to get to where I'm at. And I'm going to give you what I think are the pros and cons for what you plan to do and what I plan to do. So, you know, if you plan to do street driving with your car, I'll show you that ball joint, and then I'll show you what I went with and why. So let's get started. Right here. So in my earlier video, I had this QA1 Ultimate ball joint, really nice piece. This just happens to be the wrong housing. No fault of, you know, I'm not complaining about QA1. Like I said, I've had great success with them, with their shocks, and that's what I'm using now. So this ball joint, this housing, even though I ordered a 209 Bravo, this housing is a 219 Bravo, so it's a little bit smaller. That's why it just slid right into my lower control arm. So somebody mispackaged, that's all that is. So I'll just go through. I'm not going to disassemble this ball joint because I plan on returning it. But I'm going to tell you the features of this that I think would be suitable for long-term use, you know, whether you're going to drive it on the street or you're going to do street strip. The drawbacks to this ball joint, and it's not even a big deal, but if you plan on tuning your roll center, this is only offered in a standard pin height, a 100,000ths longer, and a 1/2 inch longer. So if you need a 1 inch longer stem, you're not going to get it with this ball joint, but it is a beautiful ball joint, and I'll go through why. One, it's a billet aluminum housing. Two, it has an actual bearing race that you can pop out and replace over. So, you know, as the ball wears, you can replace this. You can replace the stem. It has a 1.438 ball diameter, which is the standard replacement. Like I said, it has a bearing race inside. It has a cage that goes in the bottom here, and all of that can be replaced. You can rebuild this ball joint completely from the inside out once this housing is installed in your control arm. Make the adjustments here, and those adjustments are made using this tool right here. And I apologize, but I forgot to get the part number. But you do want this tool because this takes the cap off and reinstalls it. This actually makes the adjustment inside, right? So you adjust the end play of the ball joint, and then you hold this and tighten the cap, you're done. So if I were driving this car on the street, this is the ball joint that I would go for, because you can adjust it, replace the race, rebuild it entirely once it's in the car. So I think this is a really nice ball joint. Unfortunately, it just didn't happen to be the right size. So then I ventured out and I grabbed the AFCO, which is also a nice ball joint. The only issue with this one and it's the only issue. You'd have to call them and ask them yourself, but when I ordered this ball joint, I called them because I had to get this directly from AFCO. When I went to other websites, they listed this ball joint, but they said available, zero available, and not sure when they get them. I talked to QA or AFCO about that, and they were under the impression that this ball joint's being discontinued, at least this particular one. But you can see I'm taking this apart, and pop it out. The only thing about this one, this particular ball joint, it is a steel housing. It is serrated, so it's gonna hold tight for sure. But there's like a rubber or neoprene seat in there. You can see that black band. I imagine you could replace that if you needed to. I didn't see these available. I didn't see that particular part available on the website, so I don't know. You can get these pins in different lengths, from standard 1/2 inch and 1 inch longer. And again, when you're talking about, and it has a nice seat in the bottom. This is a 1.478 ball diameter, which is a little bit bigger than stock. And you just roll the adjustment down till it's snug and back it off a little bit and get your end play. Jam nut, you're done. Low friction. The only reason I didn't use this ball joint is because it appears to have the stock deflection, and I needed more. When you're looking at websites and they're talking about their ball joints, you're going to see that it says 64 degrees of deflection. What that amounts to is 32 degrees to each side. So it's 32 degrees from center that they're talking about. So if it says 64, it's 32 from center, okay? Again, really nice ball joint, beautiful design, it's sturdy, it's easy to adjust. I just don't know what the availability of this particular ball joint is going to be moving forward with AFCO. So two reasons I didn't use this was, one, didn't have enough deflection for the travel I'm looking for, and then two, I don't know what the availability of parts is going to be moving forward with this ball joint, but still a really nice ball joint. And I'm just going to tell you up front that when you jump into this, if you want to have the adjustment of roll center, which roll center really has to do with cornering, okay? Has nothing to do with drag racing at all. The only reason I went this route is because I wanted to come up with a way to minimize the camber change as it goes through its suspension travel. But I'm going to get into a couple of things with that in a second. So what I ended up with was All-Star Performance, okay? There's two ways you can buy this ball joint. One, you can see I just bought the housing, and then I bought the different length pins, right? So I have standard 1/2 inch and 1 inch. This ball joint has all the deflection I need to get the travel that I wanted. And now I'm going to take this out of the package. So like I said, there's two ways you can buy this ball joint. You can go on their website, you can look at what application you have. Just be forewarned that you should know what ball joint, what the base part number is before you go looking for this, because they do it by the style. And what I mean by style is, for the Gen 2 Camaro, it uses what's called a K2145. And the K2145 is the base number of, say, a Moog ball joint. So For second gen Camaro, you're going to go to whatever website you're looking at for these ball joints, and you're going to look for the K2145 base, and then you can either buy the ball joint assembled, which comes with whatever pin that you choose, or you buy the cage and then you buy the pins separately. This one has 2 set screws in there, and you simply should have grabbed an Allen wrench. So I'm going to do that now. I had actually thought about it, but then I didn't do it when I sat down to do this video. So my apologies. So take the set screws out. As you can see, that's pretty easy. And when you do that, you can pull the cage out, or the adjuster, lower ball support, right? Now this ball joint here, so I've been going through the pins and trying different ones. This pin is 1.5, so it's the biggest of all of them, which I think is going to provide the most robust support for the ball joint. As you can see, there's holes right there. So when you pump grease into the bottom of this ball joint, you're going to pump grease through that hole and it's going to come out there. So I do like that design. The rest of them have grooves in them. So you can see that that's got index points to line up with your set screw. This is a steel housing as well. This doesn't have a removable, replaceable race in it, but as it wears, you can make the adjustment over time to take the slack out of the ball joint, and they recommend no more than 10 thousandths. So you just assemble it, you put your set screws in, and you're done. The only drawback to this particular ball joint is that because of the amount of deflection that it has, so drop the pin in, spin this in, it's tight, back it up till you get 2 holes that line up. Now you have a low friction ball joint that's adjustable, and you can take the play out of it as it wears over time. As a point of reference, my car is a drag only car. I put about 2,000 passes on a stock set of ball joints, which are all steel, and they're still not worn. That comes out to what, 400 passes or something like that, or 500 miles. So 500 miles on a ball joint is nothing. And when you have your suspension set up to where you're not beating the tar out of it, it's gonna last longer anyway. But so I don't anticipate that I'll ever remove these ball joints, because I can just keep adjusting it and keep them greased up. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna show you, I need to revisit one little thing here. The only issue that I have, and that you need to keep in mind, is that with the All-Star ball joint, with the amount of deflection that it has, it didn't matter what boot I tried to put on this, it's not going to work. It pulls it off because the deflection is so steep. Once it gets to a certain point, it just pulls the boot off. So I'm looking at different options. And since this is a dedicated race car, I'm not worried about dust and dirt and water and all that other stuff, because I will inspect these and keep it greased, because I'm aware of that, right? So it's just a maintenance item, and to me it's not that big of a deal. So right now I have this set up with 2¼ inches of chrome showing out of the shock at ride height. And if you remember, and you want to go back to my first videos, you'll notice that when I took this apart, even though it had the stock pin type suspension or shock in it, I had 2¼ inches of shock showing. So this is all based on that number. What this is going to end up at I have no idea, because I don't have the engine in it. I don't have, you know, all the suspension in it. I don't have everything on this car. So I don't know what this is going to actually end up as, but I had to start somewhere. That's my base number for shock extension out of the, you know, piston extension out of the shock. So that's what I set it up as. That's what I've been basing all of this on. This could end up at 1.5 inches. It could end up at 3 inches. It could end up anywhere in between. The other thing to keep in mind, I have 2-inch drop spindles on here, okay? So let's just say that I put this car on the ground and I have, you know, whatever shock I have showing out of here, and I want to get more adjustment out of it. I can put another pin in here, which is going to adjust the ride height of the car. If you have a stock spindle, stock height spindle, you could go stock 1/2 inch, 1 inch on those pins, and you can actually lower the car 1/2 inch or 1 inch and end up working with the shock travel that you have, okay? With this at ride height, or what I perceive as ride height at this point, I'm going to show you the shock travel here. Suspension travel. So right there, that's the spindle at ride height. Okay. And with this All-Star ball joint installed, so I have my tape measure all set up at ride height for this spindle, right? And now I'm going to let this drop. And I'm right at that's a solid 4 13/16. So almost 5 inches. And I'll just note that the control arm is actually touching the frame. It's not even the stop bolt that's touching the frame. So the control arm is now touching the frame. And now, instead of this being my limiting factor like it was before, or the stock pin height for the upper ball joint being my limiting factor, it's physically the control arm that's touching the frame now. So very, very pleased with that. That's about the most I'm going to get out of this for now. The other thing to keep in mind is that I have not added shims to do the alignment. And I know that I already have positive caster, or camber, my apologies. I already know that I have positive camber, and so I got to pull the control arm in with these shims up here, right, to pull it in. When I do that, there's a chance the control arm could end up hitting the frame here at full travel instead of here. And that's where at some point I would consider going with a ball joint spacer up here. And that's if I'm really going for the max travel that I can get. I personally don't think that I'll ever need this much travel, and I'm happy with this. If this ends up being an issue, I might visit that. But at this point, I'm going to start assembling the front end. I'm going to put everything together. That means that I have to jackhammer the other ball joint out over there. And this brings up another point. If this is something that you want to do, and I've had, you know, there's been discussions about whether you need a low friction ball joint or whether you do or you don't. I didn't do this lower ball joint solely for the purpose of low friction. I did it solely for the purpose of having the adjustment that I wanted. So, and to be able to experiment with different, just, you know, just experimenting. I'm new to this whole longer stems on the ball joints and everything. I was a guy who, when I built this car, I took it to the alignment shop and I said I want between 4 and 6 degrees of caster. I want 0 or zero camber at ride height, and I want, an 1/8 inch of toe in. And I drove the car like that for the last, 25 years. Never gave any of this a thought until I started rebuilding the front end and started, looking around and educating myself on different things. Like I said, roll center is not a thing for me. It was just a matter of showing myself, what is the camber change with the longer or shorter ball joint stems. This happens to be a stock lower ball joint stem. That's what ended up working for me the best. And when you talk about having a 2-inch lowered spindle, if I have this at 2 1/4 and I get this car at ride height, and then I have to, let's say that I end up with more, right? Or less, right? If I end up with less, like this thing is way up here like this, I could put the 1-inch lower ball joint in here, 1-inch longer stem, and then that's going to raise it up. So it's going to give me more shock exposure. I think that's how it works. I'm trying to work it out in my head as I'm talking to you. But let's just say that I put the 1-inch longer stem in the bottom right now. That's 1 inch longer. It's lowering the car 1 inch already. Plus I have the 2-inch drop spindle. So that means I got to put the shock extension at 3 1/4, which now that limits my travel by 1 inch, right? So whatever I've based my measurement off here at ride height, just assembling this thing, if I'm at 2 1/4 and I move around with the ball joints, I have to remember that I have a 2-inch lowered spindle, and I know that in my last setup, to get 3 inches of clearance under my cross member for NHRA rules at the starting line, I know that 2 1/4 was my setting. Like I said, I don't know what it's going to be moving forward with this new setup, but I do know that if I put that 1-inch longer ball joint in, I have to jack the car up another inch, which is going to give me more shock exposure, which now I lost an inch of travel overall, right? So those are things to keep in mind. So for now, this is the setup, but I have options moving forward. I have bearing spacers for the upper ball joint. I also have longer stems that I can just pop in and out, and this thing is super easy to disassemble. I can show you right now. So you pop this out. I don't have the set screws in it yet because of the changes I've been making and trying to get this where I want it. So now my ball joint's disassembled, okay? I can pop in a longer pin, put the stock one back in, whatever I want to do. And that's the beauty of this ball joint. So what I would recommend is, if you are wanting to do this and you know that you want to have the flexibility and you want to experiment, I don't care who you buy your lower control arms from. If they're tubular lower control arms, they're aftermarket, obviously. I would order them without the lower ball joint, so that you have the flexibility of putting in whatever ball joint you want, and make sure you understand and get the information from the manufacturer, whoever that happens to be, that which ball joint do you put in your lower control arms so that I can get the right one moving forward. And that's my recommendation to you when it comes to that. Only because They're beautiful control arms. They're super light. These are TRZ Motorsport control arms. I love these things. I mean, it's crazy the difference in weight. I didn't weigh them, but I mean, when you grab a stock control arm and then you grab this thing, yeah, you know for a fact that you did the right thing. But removing the ball joint, just because of the design, that you know, there's no way around it. It's really painful. So I would order the lower control arms. You know, knowing what I know now, moving forward, I would order these without the ball joint installed and put in whatever ball joint I want, if that's something you want to do. Other than that, the only thing you have to worry about when you're doing this particular setup, you have a coilover shock, is that when you drop this all the way down, you have to make sure the coil does not hit the frame. And so that becomes your limiting factor. I know that after doing this, with this amount of travel, with everything bottomed out, the coil doesn't even come close to hitting the frame. And TRZ, with their design, recommends no more than 5.5 inches of suspension travel downward. So, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. I really like it. Like I said, with the All-Star ball joint, with that much deflection, you're not going to get a boot that stays on there. And that's just something I have to deal with. But this is a race car. I don't care. QA1, they do have boots that work with their ball joints, and I know that you can get boots for the AFCO that also work. So, you know, I'm not trying to plug anybody, and I'm not big enough for anybody to be paying attention to me yet, I know that, but I do want to put a shout out to AFCO for a great product, QA1 for great products, TRZ Motorsports for just beautiful control arms and billet ball joint up top. I will say also that all three of those manufacturers, great customer support. QA1 is more along the lines of they build the part, they send it out, and then if you want to modify or you want to make changes, that's up to you. I haven't had to really talk to TRZ about their stuff. I've talked at length about their products, and their customer support and tech support is incredible. AFCO, same thing. QA1, their tech support is incredible. And they all make great products. So, you know, between my TRZ Motorsports billet spindles and my control arms from TRZ and billet upper ball joint, QA1 shocks and springs, I think I made the right choice for me. And that's about it for now. My next video is going to be me assembling the front end. That's with the steering box, the drag link, the idler arm, pitman arm, and then when I get into the video, I'll show you what I'm doing different from stock, obviously, which means that I'm going to have to order custom length tie rods. But when I get to that point, I'll show it to you. And then I'm going to have to adjust my bump steer at some point. But I think I've covered everything. I haven't had any issues putting any of this together. And if you've seen in earlier videos, I have grade 5 hardware in here, but that's just for to get this on here, bolt it down, and know where I'm starting with no shims. I am putting much better hardware in here, longer to make room for shims. But for now, I mean, can't go wrong with that. This is beautiful, and you can see how easy it moves, you know. It's just a nice setup. If I could make one recommendation, if you're going to use anything stock and you just want to modify it, I would say get the lowest friction ball joint you can and get the lowest friction bushings that you can. And then, you know, like I've shown you, upper ball joint, longer stem, more travel. The All-Star ball joint down below, way more deflection. gives you further travel in that respect, but you're not going to find a boot that's going to work, and I've tried at least a dozen of them. But to me, that's not a big deal. So, and something I didn't know, I mean, I've been in drag racing around it for most of my life, but every now and then I'd see some All-Star Performance products, and this is kind of a plug for them. I'm shamelessly doing this, I know, but I was not aware of how many different products they make. It's crazy. They have a ton, and it covers the spectrum. So, you know, I like their ball joint, and I'm going to use it, and I recommend it. So for now, just stay tuned. I'm going to start working on this today, and I'm going to make video content for it and edit it out. And this particular video is a straight shot, so I'm not going to edit anything. I'm just going to put it out there. And hopefully you got something out of this. I hope you're getting something out of my videos. Also, I'm wearing my Yellow Bullet shirt because I think it's next weekend that they have the Yellow Bullet Nationals, which I went to a few times, and I know they've changed some of the format, but it's still the Yellow Bullet Nationals. And yellowbullet.com is also a really good forum if you want to really dig in the weeds and get some good information and good advice from people. But, you know, don't be a softie going on that website. I'm just going to tell you right now, do not be a softie. If your feelings get hurt easily, stay away. Because I'm not going to say it's a rough crowd, but they're honest. So just be aware of that. So yeah, that's a plug for yellowbullet.com for the Yellow Bullet Nationals. You can catch the Yellow Bullet Nationals live. There's a few streaming services that do it. But yeah, look at it. It's some really cool radial racing. The radial tire world is blown up. I run radials on the back of my car. A pro bracket radial, which is way more forgiving, but still I run a radial, which, you know, completely changes how you set the car up and run it. But so yeah, just like and subscribe, and make sure you share this video with other people. Make sure you share my channel with other people. I know that I'm not the most exciting thing right now, but I'm trying to pack as much technical information in as I learn it myself and share it with you. But if I could make one recommendation, if you plan on playing around with lower ball joints, get the lower control arm with no ball joints, ask them what they use, and then buy your replacement based on that. So stay tuned for further content, and thank you for watching and taking time out of your day for me. And I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, and you know, maybe I'll get yelled at for it, but I just happened to catch David Freiberger's video, his newest video this morning, and it got me excited about making this video because he threw out some pointers for people who are just starting out with their YouTube channels. And you know, since he's an automotive guy and he has been in the business and on TV and everything for man, what is it, almost 40 years now? I mean, it's been a long time, 35 plus, right? So congratulations on that. But go on and look at his newest video, because he's given some pointers on making your content for YouTube, and it got me really excited because one thing I didn't know about were thumbnails. I'd heard about it, but I didn't understand it. And what I've noticed is, you know, YouTube picks your thumbnail for you, and if you go and you look at any of my prior videos, you're going to see this ugly mug staring at you, and you think, why am I going to click on that video? So hopefully I can come up with a thumbnail that's more enticing this time around. But anyway, I want to thank David Freiberger for putting that content out. I just watched it this morning, and that was you threw out some really great advice, and hopefully my videos will just get better as time goes on, and I'm going to stop talking now. So anyway, have a great weekend, and I'm going to start putting this front end together and get some good footage for you. So like and subscribe, John McKinney Racing, and thank you very much.